We are here in Scotland at Guthrie Castle with Dan Peña, the $50 billion man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, and I hope you and your crew are enjoying themselves.
We are. I think you've managed to get me up here every year for the past 2 years. First, you had me up for the Castle seminar, and then a year later, you cooked up some 70th birthday party and got me up here. And now you've inducted me into the Hall of Fame.
It's not hardly cooking up. I turned 70. Okay.
Now I'm inducted into the Hall of Fame. I don't know if you're going to come up with something for next year.
Well, no, but I'm certainly going to have something for my 75th birthday because I've already had my 71st birthday. But I mean, it's a fun place to be. I mean, it's not hard to get people to come up here.
Yeah, it's enjoyable. The grounds are beautiful. The wall garden. I remember when we were at the Ritz about 2 years ago, and we were having dinner there, and you said, Brian, in order to mentor to you, you've got to come to the castle. I can't do this without you coming to the castle.
Correct.
And so I wonder if we could start there and talk about this castle. You know, this isn't just part of your high-performance coaching. This is really your home.
Correct.
You've been here for 30-plus years.
Since 84.
84. And it's an important part of getting people into your mindset, into the QLL mindset.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about it, not just as a structure, but as a metaphor, and it's also a metaphor for your life and everything that you've come from. What does the castle really mean to you?
Well, when we reverse engineered to try to figure out how I turned $820 into $450 million, and after subsequent to me being tossed out of the company I founded, much of it pivoted around yesterday's dreams are today's realities, okay? Yesterday's dreams are today's realities, and they're part of the 5 credos, which is kind of like the foundation of QLA. And in March, April of 1983, I had just looked at one of the first issues of the Robb Report, which has now been around since then, and I recommend everybody subscribe to it. I don't get anything out of it. And now there's 6 or 7 different Robb Reports, all published by the same publisher. And I was reading it.
Is it a wealth report?
No, it's a report for influential lifestyles.
Okay.
Okay. Kind of like lifestyles of the rich and famous. And so before I went out on a 20-mile run with my wife, which we did every Saturday or Sunday, I was looking in the back, and it had an advertising section, and the section it had castles on islands. And so I looked through it, and I said, decided I wanted one. Now, we are on an island, but this isn't the kind of island I thought we'd be on. I thought we'd be on an island off a coast of some great landmass. And so I told my wife, and she was very supportive. She said, okay. So that was March, April.
And you were in LA at the time.
And running up down Torrance Boulevard from Palos Verdes north towards Los Angeles on Torrance Boulevard, about to cross the under the 405 freeway.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice neighborhood.
Well, no, it wasn't residential. It was commercial. Okay. I was running down from Palos Verdes, very nice neighborhood, and we were running along. And I said, we're going to do this. This is March, April. Then Thanksgiving of that same year, which was November. Then I started looking into it. I got some people to look into where do you find these things. And there are not that many places that have castles on islands, offshore, big land masses. So in Thanksgiving of that year, we came to Britain, initially Ireland, Republic of Ireland, then Northern Ireland, and then England, and then here. And this was the 19th estate that we looked at, it was beautiful. It was a nice day like this, and it should have been cold, but it wasn't. Should have been rainy, but it wasn't. It could have even been snowing, but it wasn't. So I was hooked. And so then...
And your kids were hooked, right?
Oh, yeah. Dan Jr. said, Daddy, Daddy, as he crossed the bridge over here on the other side of the lock, Daddy, Daddy, we're home. Of course, the seller's in the car, the brokers are in the car, real estate brokers, so they know they had me. So I fought and screamed about price, and I actually looked at a couple more. And then in June, I came down to ostensibly close the deal, June of the next year. And we came down, and we argued a little bit about what state it was going to be in when I took it over. And then a week later, the final papers were drawn up. And so we were to close, pay for it. Money went hard. This was the first week in July, approximately mid to late August. And
how much did the castle cost?
Well, I mean, that's if you Google guys can find it, but no, it's a matter of privacy. But it's not what it cost; it's what I put into it. I put in multiples of what I paid for it, multiples. I don't want to ask Sally, but every once in a while, you put in 10, 15 times what you paid for this over the years, and I don't doubt it because I put in many, many millions. I mean, since then. So we closed the last day of August, and I moved in by myself. And my family was still in the United States. And the day after I closed, it snowed, and there was like 3 feet of snow on the ground, and you couldn't barely walk the grounds. No cars could get on. And I thought to myself, what the fuck have I done? And so the rest is history. And then we worked on it from September, October of '84 through, and I wanted to be ready for my 40th birthday on August the 10th, 1985. And it actually finished about 2 weeks ahead of time, the last week in July. And we, as I told you yesterday, we re-roofed it, re-plumbed it, rewired it, refloored it, rewalled it. All this stuff, these fancy bits of stonework above us were all broken off. This Napoleon chandelier wasn't here, and so we redid it. And what I now understand is rising damp, wet rot, dry rot, and all these other things that I didn't know existed in a place like this. And so I learned the hard way.
Had you spent time in Britain before this?
Yes, I was in Britain since '81 when I tried my first roll-up, which failed. And I was here the week of Princess Di getting married to Prince Charles, and my deal collapsed for a bunch of reasons, and not the least of which was the people were not interested in the roll-up concept. They wanted oil and gas, they liked exploration, but the roll-up I tried to do was drilling, refining, construction pipeline, a bunch of other things, and we didn't get it away, so it failed. Okay. Then I came back 3 years to almost the day, and I did the infamous Great Western flotation in the city on my 39th birthday.
That happened before you, right when you bought this place?
Correct.
Okay. And so this place is a metaphor for yesterday's dreams, tomorrow's reality.
Correct.
And it's a bit of smell the leather as well.
Oh, correct.
Which is put yourself in these situations of where you want to be in the future and be as if you're already there.
Correct. And, the kids say, and I don't like this analogy, fake it till you make it. That's the new millennial words they use to describe it. But it is when, years before I bought this place, in the early 70s, my then girlfriend and I used to go to LAX airport to see them get off the Pan Am flights that had just come in either from Paris or London when they land. In those days, you walk down the stairs, and in those days, everybody was in a suit. The women had fur coats, and we used to follow them when they got into the terminal. Of course, this is before security, way before, and we followed them and where they went, and then we follow them outside. There'd be somebody there to meet them, with their bags from the carousels, and then get in their cars, limousines often. And we used to go to La Quinta Country Club, which was at that time $215 a night. This is 71, 72, $215 a night, when our apartment rent in Marina del Rey was $205 a month. We used to go there and spend one night at La Quinta, which is arguably one of the best golf country clubs in the world, just to be around, smelling the leather. I didn't call it smelling the leather then, but that's what we were doing. We were experiencing what, not the other half, but the 1% did with their money, and that's how I got to meet people like Bob Hope and George Burns, and to name a couple at La Quinta. And we used to do, we looked at houses in Los Angeles area. In those days, $1 million to $2 million house was a lot of house. And I remember looking at a house for $1.6 million. It was like 18,000 square feet. It was on 10 acres. It had just a phenomenal view. It was up in the Hollywood Hills, and I looked down. On one side was the valley, on the other side was Los Angeles. But we looked at all that stuff. We didn't have any money to do that because intuitively I knew that someday I wanted it to be déjà vu. I walk in and I'm comfortable.
Is that your single most effective practice, you think?
Yeah, I think.
Putting yourself in those situations.
Correct. And we had a contest this year, Smell the Leather contest, and I have about, all in, I have about 50,000 people between Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and my regular mailing list. And how many people do you think entered Smell the Leather contest out of 50,000?
I don't know. 1,000.
8.
8.
8.
And what was
2 less than 10.
What was the competition?
Nothing. It's just that they felt uncomfortable. You know, I suggested in the Smell the Leather contest, go to a Rolls dealer.
Okay.
Go to,
I get videos all the time and pictures of people in the Rolls-Royce dealer.
Yeah.
In fact, the one in Berkeley Square, I think they're looking for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they all come in and do videos, and Dan Peña sent me here.
Yeah.
Okay.
But only 8 entered the contest. Now, a whole bunch have done subsequent. They tell me now, oh, I didn't know about the contest. 8 people. And we picked one that won. Or no, they all got a little prize. But the one that really won was a guy named Bradley, a 16-year-old kid. He came to the Ritz thing.
Yeah.
And well, now he's 18, I guess. But he was 16 going on 40. I mean, this kid, was way ahead of the curve vis-a-vis maturity and what he wanted. But Smell the Leather. And now I saw some people in cars I'd never heard of. I didn't really know what a Bugatti was, you know? And I remember asking one of the kids, are these expensive? And they said, oh yeah, they're real expensive. And then some kid got on a motorcycle that was like a $500,000 motorcycle and that was his Smell the Leather and experience. And I tell the kids to go to restaurants, you know, even if it's only once a quarter, save up your money and go to the best restaurants. And I tell them to get expensive clothes, at least have one outfit. Now, the women can relate to the one expensive outfit infinitely easier than the guys. I mean, because a lot of women have one expensive outfit.
Yeah.
And guys, don't think that way.
And so going to the restaurants and smelling the leather and having that one expensive outfit, what does it do? Does it condition you to soon be able to do that all of the time? Or does it put you around people like Bob Hope that you're going to meet with, and that's going to change your own game?
Well, both. But once you've worn your one expensive outfit, and once you've gone into, say the Connaught Hotel, which has got a Michelin-star restaurant, I think it's 2 Michelin-star restaurants, and you sit there and you look across the dining room and you see, Ringo Starr, or you see somebody that is a luminary, or you see Tom Cruise, George Clooney, because that's the kind of restaurants they eat at.
Yeah.
And contrary to what you think, they're not sitting there in a T-shirt and their flip-flops. A nice tailor-made blazer, a nice silk shirt. They may not be wearing a tie. And they have a pair of shoes not dissimilar to mine that I'm wearing right now. And then it starts to resonate. And I get all the time, and the kids say, the fact that from the day that I thought of this in beginning of April to the day I moved in was 17 months. And that's pretty short. And could I have gotten in here earlier? Maybe. But I wasn't thinking about time horizons and my goals when I just knew that I wanted it to be the right place. The visualization of your goals and the affirmations are key to QLA. I mean, and I talked to you yesterday, John Elway dreaming that since he's 6 years old, he's going to throw a pass to win a Super Bowl. But his dreams didn't say it was going to be the first Super Bowl. He wound up having 2 big defeats, and it was the 3rd Super Bowl. So all this is really important. But part and parcel of that is, as I said yesterday, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. If your buddies, whatever you call them, aren't at least attempting to do something near smelling the leather, it's tough. It's not going to work. It's not going to work, or it certainly is not going to work as quickly. There's a reason why the kids like you went to MIT, the Ivy League schools, the Stanfords of this world, the Oxfords, etc. There's a reason why a higher percentage of those kids wind up being, in normal terms, very successful, because they're around like minds, and it makes it easier. It doesn't make it easy, because I've told you before, I had a chip on my shoulder till I was in maybe my early to mid 30s, and when I fired my first Harvard guy, and then next was a Stanford MBA. By that I mean from the business school, and then now I've fired everybody from every kind of school now. But at that time, I was jealous. The little prick that had gotten a Harvard MBA, and he felt like he was better. Well, academically, those kids like yourself are better. You're smarter. Otherwise, you wouldn't have gotten in those schools. But as you well know, it's not just the degree may get the door open for you, but then you have to perform. And that's where I see a lot of the big schools fall down, because they don't have an accountability system after they graduate like QLA does. I believe, and I made this suggestion when I was at Oxford earlier this year. It went over like a turd in a punch bowl. But I said, if you had an accountability system for even 3 years, I know your results would be a lot better. Well, they smiled very politely, but they weren't interested.
I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
And so you wanted me to come up here for a lot of reasons, to see this, to experience this, to see you visualizing your dream, and to also be waited on here, to have dinner in the dining room, to see what that lifestyle is like. And you're showing the kids that if they're willing to do the hard work and stay consistent and go to get uncomfortable, they can have all these things.
Absolutely. And the new phrase, the last few years that I've come up with is, I want to show them and teach them and mentor them to be comfortable being uncomfortable and expanding their horizons. And I told you over the last couple of days that we have a new section in our weekly report about what did you do today that scared you, and every day, and why did it scare you? And at the beginning of the year mentor program, some of the things that they say are just remarkable, or as a doctor would say, they're unremarkable. They shouldn't be afraid to do that. But by the end of the 12 months, I'm getting in their weekly reports, I'm running out of things, and I said that scare me. And I said no, and then I make some suggestions that they had never even thought of. And I said, well, why don't you cold call the chairman of the Royal Bank of Scotland? And on the Zoom calls, their little eyes roll around. Well, and so there is always something to make you uncomfortable. And the more you make yourself uncomfortable, it's like competition for an Olympian. That's why they want to run against the best. So when the Olympics come, they're used to running against the best. And the more you compete against the very best, the better you become.
One of my affirmations, which I started doing after I came up here, is I am comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That's what I say every day. And when I don't feel like I've done something uncomfortable, I actually get a little, edgy.
Yeah.
Like I haven't done something important.
Yeah, Steve Jobs said this 30 years ago, and I believe it's in his book, that when you get up every morning and you think about what you did the day before, you can't not get up every morning too many days in a month. And if you didn't do something in his change the world, etc., then you're not on the right path. and and those guys all, to a man that are compared to Steve, are thinking global. I mean, they were thinking massive, bodacious things, because one of the things when we talk about goals here, I tell the kids, you will never exceed your highest expectation. You will never exceed it.
By definition.
By definition.
Right.
But they don't think of it that way. Okay? So if your expectation is to do X or be X, you're never going to rise above that to 2 or 5 or 10X, other than by some act of serendipity. And you can't plan a life on serendipity when all the stars are juxtaposed that one day. And so that's why virtually everybody that comes here adds many zeros to whatever their financial goals might be. And one of the guys said he wanted to marry a beautiful blah, 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 and have kids, and the kids grow up, blah, 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 and his wife to stay reasonably the same during 20, 30, 40 years of marriage. And so I said, well, and women don't look the same at 25 that they do at 55. That's not the way it is. But I said, if you start with a washerwoman in a taco house in Escondido, there's no fucking way, no matter how nice a woman she is, that she's going to look like Miss Universe 30 years hence. That's not going to happen. And I said, if you start with the runner-up in Miss Arkansas, in the beauty pageant, then, at least you're in the same universe. And but mostly guys have their expectations too low.
And that's why you're there.
That's why I'm there. I'm there to kick them.
Push them way up.
Way. They need oxygen because they're way at the tip of Mount Everest, vis-a-vis their goals. And I've seen you. I've seen what they're capable of. I mean, and it's incredible. But they can't. Till you meet me. And then after that, the rest is history. So no matter, when I say we have 100% success rate, we do. We pull everybody closer to the goal line. Sometimes it's only a foot. Sometimes they multiple goals. But we pull everybody because we give them the opportunity to open their eyes and, more importantly, open their brains. Because the only thing that keeps anybody from doing anything is the matter between their ears. And we're all products of our social and economic milieu. Most guys and gals come out of working stiff families, as they used to say, hand to mouth, month to month, paycheck to paycheck. That's the norm. Not everybody, but clearly a vast majority of the people come out of that background. And so if that's what you've seen all your life, what are you going to have your expectations based on? And then what are your parents going to have their expectations based on? I give a great analogy in the ebook. Sally and I were in Australia many years ago, and we were at an outdoor barbecue in Aborigine land, and there was 4 couples sitting at the table with us. One couple from the Eastern Bloc countries, one couple from Australia there, one American couple, and one English couple. And the Eastern Bloc couple and the Australian couple kind of resonated, and they talked back and forth. The Australians were in their late 20s, early 30s. The Eastern Bloc couple was in their mid-40s, and the Eastern Bloc couple had their 2 kids, about 13, 14, and 16, 17. And they were talking about the days off that the governments give them. And they were talking about how and why they were complaining about the lack of understanding that the governments have, both in the Eastern Bloc and Australia, and they were bitching about holidays. And the 2 kids of the Eastern Bloc country were listening to this, that their parents were telling the young couple, You should go move where they've got 45 days holiday instead of the 28 statutory days or something like that. So now what are these kids going to think? The parents are 45 years old and they're worried about 15 days extra holiday. Not that you go to a good school, not that you accomplish something. And they were also saying that in 2.5 years they get to work higher. So the kids are listening to this, and then the kids see it being reinforced by the other couple, 29 and 33, and instead of talking, the world is my oyster.
So it's a cycle of weakness.
Correct. It's a cycle of low expectations.
And you're here to break that.
Correct.
You mentioned the potential you see. I remember some email you sent me or a comment you made to me like a year and a half ago, and you said something. I said something to you, and you said, yeah, because I see so much potential in you, you kids.
Correct.
It almost like...
In the reelers.
In the reeler, yeah. Well, yeah. And the people you mentor.
Correct.
And it's almost like a waste when you see someone...
It isn't almost like a waste. It is a waste.
Okay. And that bothers you.
Oh, shit. It just it gripes me beyond almost anything. And I see the excuses that kids use. Well, I didn't go to that school. I didn't go to any school. They start with if they...
Right.
Well, I didn't go to the right school. In this country, the elitists at the Oxford, Cambridge kids, and a couple other schools, I didn't have an opportunity to get in those schools. And the Americans, education wasn't a big emphasis in my family. Like for me particularly, it wasn't. And so what? They like to point that Zuckerberg and Gates dropped out of Harvard the beginning of their senior year. But they were already in Harvard. Yeah. Okay? But I use a better example. Steve Jobs went to school, depending on which story you want to hear, either college, university, 3 days or 3 weeks, and then he left because he said it was bullshit.
So it doesn't take degrees.
No, it doesn't take degrees, and it really doesn't even take smarts. It takes staying focused, and who's going to stay focused the longest? And so when I see that, and I've heard so many excuses, you may not remember, but I have a page of about 130 or 40 alibis why I'm not successful. And these I pulled out from real live people over 20 years. I mean, it's unbelievable. And I stopped adding to it about 5 years ago because they're roughly the same. I mean, it's just repetition. But I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I went bald too young. My tits are not big. My tits are too big. My ass is too big. I'm knock-kneed. My parents got divorced. My parents should have got divorced. I mean, you name it, I've heard it. And it's all an excuse. It's all an excuse. And and it's sad. It's very, very sad. And unfortunately, I see it getting worse.
And why does it bother you to see people wasting their lives?
Because
I mean, you don't know these people.
I don't know them anything.
Right.
If it wasn't for a series of things that I made happen, and for whatever reason, I'm not sure why, I made happen. Like when I dropped the aquarium on the teacher, when I was in the 5th or 6th grade. If he hadn't have moved, I don't know how much he moved between it hitting him in the shoulder, breaking his collarbone, his shoulder, and hitting him right in the head and killing him. But if he hadn't scratched his ass or moved or something, I would have gone to the junior reform school at the time and then gone off to prison.
Right.
And I wouldn't have been here. If
so you're giving back.
Back. Pay it forward. Is that how they say it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And but I know how close I came, and that's just one thing. I remember getting drunked up with a kid, and we ran over a police car. We ran. We were going so fast. Fortunately, I wasn't driving. I mean, we ran right over the top with such velocity. By the grace of God, Allah, and Buddha, the fucking cops weren't killed and weren't seriously injured. And I said, what the fuck was that? Of course, I wasn't driving. That's the only good part of that. But I'm sitting in jail, and I'm saying, what the fuck could we possibly be thinking of? What?
So by knowing how close you were to failure, that makes you want to help other people.
Correct. That's part of it.
Okay.
And that it's not that hard. It's not impossible, but it is hard to be a high-performance person. But it's not the myths that you hear. Like one of the greatest myths of all time is there's no money out there to fund projects. That's horseshit. What they should say is there's no money out there to fund projects if the numbers don't make sense. In most of the deals that the kids try, the numbers have no rhyme nor reason. It's impossible. And that's why they're told no.
Right, because value's not clear. Decisions are not easy then. Right?
Thank you. As Roy Disney told me many years ago.
And you pride yourself in taking students here from any level, convicted murderers.
Yep.
Yesterday you told me you had a convicted terrorist.
Yep.
You take anybody because you
almost anybody.
Almost anybody.
I don't take rapists, child molesters and things like that, because we do a quite thorough checkup on the people.
But you don't mind taking these people because you give people second chances.
Correct.
Because you see yourself in them.
Correct.
Okay.
If it weren't for a couple of times serendipity stepped in, that could have been me.
Right. And you've also, I think you like to prove that QLA as a process can work with anybody.
Boy, from your lips to the Lord's ears. Yep, anybody, as long as they work hard and stay focused, you can make this work. And that's why I give all my shit away free. I don't mean shit in a bad sense. All my content's free, and I don't sell anything. And there's 600 or 700 pages free, and the podcasts and the newsletters are free. The only thing that we have that they pay me for is the regular seminar and the hardcore seminar that's more recently done this year, because if they want me to lay hands on them like a preacher, I want them to have skin in the game, because if you don't have skin in the game, you don't, and you want to work with me. I told you in the 90s, I used to do the goddamn seminars for free.
Yeah.
And they bitched about the goddamn food was cold at the hotel, and the vegans didn't like this. And then I said, fuck the vegans, And so then I stopped. And then I stopped giving seminars. Some people say, if you remember in 1999, when we were going to go into the year 2000, planes were going to fall out of the sky and all this bullshit.
Yeah.
So I just stopped giving seminars, and not because of that, but because I realized the only real accountability that I could put on people was when they came through here. Okay. And then in 2010, I changed to the weekly report, monthly Zoom call for free, because they get that all for free, and the success has been pretty geometric.
When you look back to Dan Peña in '93, there's black and white footage. I don't know why it's black and white, maybe because it's from a videotape, that's on YouTube.
Correct.
And you're there, I don't know if it's one of those, halls that you used to do them at the airports and things like that. And you're up there, three-piece suit, telling them like it is with QLA. What do you see when you see that guy?
Well, I see that I was a lot younger, but I also see that while the 7 steps of the QLA program are the same that they were in 1993, we have morphed the subsections and pivoted to keep up with the times. And now, we have all kinds of aids. Maybe they had webinars in 1993, but I don't know about them. But in the last years, we have webinars, and we have all these things to keep the kids apprised of what's current. And now we have templates. And now the processes, procedures, and systems are written down. And like we've got a deal that went viral about why you're poor, and I'm screaming at them to use, if you know that this template has created $500 million with other people, why in the fuck would you use it, one? And then why in the fuck would you change it? The last 5 years. And I said, I don't understand why. And Sally believes, who's also a psychologist, in addition to being a chartered accountant, my wife, she says, Dan, because they really don't want to be successful, because they're more afraid of success than they are failure. Because once you've got one success, are you going to be a one-trick pony or a two-trick pony? Can you replicate it? And the kids worry about that.
What are people more afraid of, success or failure?
Success.
Really?
Absolutely. No question. Wow. No question. And part of the reason that they're more afraid of success is they have nobody in their immediate circle that's been successful. Because show me your friends, I'll show you your show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And the only success they've seen are they've read about or they've heard about, and the Jobs, the Elon Musk, etc. And those guys struggle after the one trick. Can they do a second trick? And they already have aligned their thinking that, first of all, it's only the very few people that can be successful. And I don't know anybody. So if I don't know anybody, I've never talked to anybody, never touched anybody, it must be out of my reach. And so then when they start to get successful, they pull back normally. And, it's like a turtle. A turtle doesn't make any movement forward unless it sticks its head out. And when it sticks its head out, it's the most vulnerable. It's the most risky time for it. And they just as soon keep their head back in the turtle and not make any movement. And, of course, then you've got your parents and your friends. Oh, Johnny got in trouble doing that. You're going to lose all your money. You won't be able to spend time with your family. And they've got all this rhetoric that they've heard all their life. And then they decide that instead of pulling the trigger and actually trying something, they'll fill their brain with another podcast, another book, etc. I told you yesterday there's a kid that came through here that read 640 books before he came to the seminar. And and at the end of that, I said, what resonated with you? And he said that the people that write the books make a lot of money. That's what resonated with him, which is true. So
you walked me through this castle yesterday, and I looked at old pictures, from some for black and white pictures, then on to newspaper clippings, and I see a man who, for his entire life, has gone out there just to take a big old bite out of the world. And whether it's dropping aquariums on teachers when you're in the 5th grade, or signing up for the Army, or then going and selling real estate,
correct,
to then going to Wall Street. When you saw more money in oil, you went to oil. Then you went big game hunting. And then you got to high performance coaching. And based on that cycle I saw, you're not afraid to discard something when you get bored with it. No. Golf, I didn't put golf in there. Part of the reason you're here, golf was in there.
Correct.
But you don't seem to get bored with high performance coaching.
No, because
that's the one constant in your life, if I look back.
Yeah. Because every kid's different. Even though the fundamentals are the same, whether you're in cybersecurity or in rolling up veterinary clinics, the precepts are the same. There's just slight changes. And in addition to that, everything's changing, by the second because of the internet. And each kid is different. No two kids are alike. And I've had twins come through this deal, and one's a psychologist and one's a lawyer, and they're Muslims, and girls, lady, they're in their mid-40s now, and they, even though they're twins, they have a completely different take on life, and one is what I call a tree hugger, save the world. And the other one is just wants to be a professional mother, okay? And so their whole lives are devoted to that. But everything's different. You're different. We've talked about Peter Sage is different. Other people that have been through the program, they're all different. And that's what keeps it unique, keeps it fresh for me, and it keeps me interested. Because every day, somebody fucks something up of the mentees, every day something's going wrong because they decided to change the template, or they decided not to use the template, and they decided that they had a better idea. And occasionally the kids do come up with a better idea. But we've had, many tens of thousands come through, and I'm not saying that we won't come up with better ideas, because we continue to morph the seminar and change it. But every kid's different, so I keep interested.
That's why you're interested, because you can't master this, because you're trying to transfer your knowledge to other human beings.
Correct.
And so you'll never be able to master that.
And not so much, well, I don't look at it as knowledge. I'm transferring my experience. And my experiences are pretty vast. And from A to Z, in industries, on all the continents, high interest rates, low interest rates. Like I told the kids at Oxford, and I've been telling the kids the last couple of years, they are going to kick themselves in the ass 5 years from now when interest rates are back at a more normal level, and they're going to look back for 10, 12 years, the interest rates were so low, it was like giving away money free. And what the fuck did I do with it? Nothing. I mean, they are going to be sick to their stomachs. There was literally free money.
Because you've been around with 18% interest rates.
Correct. Yeah. And you know, you can borrow money at just astronomically low figures now. And they think 2, 3, 4, 5% interest rate is high. And I mean, 5's nothing. And of course, they hear about the 18% or 20%, but they don't even know anybody that had to live through that, because you know you have to be pretty senior to have lived through that. But
talk to me about your style. You passed on to this quote to me just recently, and there's a man here, which is General George Patton.
Correct.
And it was immortalized in that movie with George C. Scott, Patton.
Correct.
You have a style that's unlike anyone else. It gets you in trouble sometimes.
Correct.
You're on the internet yelling at people, saying bad words, giving it to them hard.
I don't call them bad words. Vulgarity is bad to some people, but not all people.
Let's talk about vulgarity. What's your favorite curse word?
Cunt.
Why use cunt?
But you see, last night I was telling you this, that when people say somebody's a cunt, normally they mean that they're obnoxious, they're not friendly, they're being an asshole or something, okay? When I use it, that's not what I mean. What I mean is you're a fucking coward, because in the hood, I mean in the military, in place, when, you know, we're going to replace that company commander, I mean, he's leading his men like a cunt, because he lacks the aggressiveness that he should have, okay? I'm not referring to the vagina of a woman. It's just, it's a thing that's been tagged onto somebody that has no balls, has no stones. He can't, he's afraid of his own shadow, okay? And so I use that word quite a bit. You know, it's a combination. You're lazy, you're afraid, you're procrastinating on purpose, you're stepping on your own dick on purpose. It's kind of all-encompassing word. Yeah. And of course I use other vulgar words, but contrary to what the YouTubers think, and from time to time I get chastised for the big high-performance people that I've had the privilege of being around, with 2 exceptions, which I told you last night on the way to dinner, all talk the same way. It's just that their public persona in front of the camera, and everybody's got a goddamn camera now, is they choose not to talk that way. That's why when people are caught off camera, like when Joe Biden told Obama when they passed through the Obamacare 3 or 4 years ago, this is a big fucking deal, okay? They all talk that way, but they don't want to be caught for time eternal on YouTube 1,000 years from now when the Martians look at it. But I don't give a shit.
Why don't you give a shit?
Well, if you want a friend, buy a fucking dog. I mean, I don't want to be your friend. I know, as I've said, love don't get the job done. But let me, before I say that, I want results. I want results for you more than you want, because I know what you're capable of. I don't want cop-out excuses. I want fucking results. And I will do anything that I can to drag you across the goal line. Most of the kids that get across the goal line with QLA that are in the mentor program, I fucking drug with on my back. The famous scene in Forrest Gump when he's dragging all these people out of the battle and he got the Medal of Honor, and then gets shot in the ass. I was shot in the buttocks. Sally contends the reason I got an arthritic back is because of all the cocksuckers I've pulled across, and they don't come easily. They're kicking and scratching. I mean, they don't. I mean,
you're referring to me.
Yes, well, you're one of them. And so, but the Elon Musk of this world, his favorite word is fuck. That's his favorite word. Fuck. fuck this, fuck you, blah, blah. If you Google enough kids, I mean, there's countless stories about this. I mean, Steve and Jobs, God rest his soul, and all these other guys. Ballmer, who talked at Oxford a couple years ago, after he left Microsoft, he was up there about 45, 50 minutes. And they asked him, was he nervous? He said, yes, because I realized this is going to be on YouTube forever. And for those that know him, they're surprised, gobsmacked, overwhelmed to think he got through 50, 60 minutes without saying a bad word. Because, you know, he says bad words. I mean, Ballmer throws chairs at kids in meetings and throws computer. I mean, shit. Steve Jobs, you know, threw, back in the old days, you know, tried to throw a programmer and his fucking computer out the window. But everybody, you know, legend has it, threw a CFO in India, Bangalore, down a flight of stairs. Legend has it. And I mean, because we're emotionally involved in our deals. You know, we want them to be successful. And we know, except for some little quirk, perhaps it wasn't successful. And so, you know, they get emotional about it. And so I use bad words because it shows that I'm emphasizing. There's an emphasis. Because people give up too easily. If they had if your lovely daughter who spoke at my 70th, and I'm not suggesting this in any way, shape, manner, form, but since I know your daughter and I know you, and we're on the YouTube here, if somebody had a gun to your daughter's head, and said, Brian, we need such and such results out of the reelers or whatever, I mean, you think a lot differently about it. Absolutely. I jokingly say, if it was your wife, fuck, you can always get another wife. But your kids, you know, and so, and I know that. So I put a lot of pressure on the kids to perform because I know they can perform. And we get the results all the time. You know, I didn't know I could do this. And he says, you knew, but I didn't. Because your parents don't tell you to try to be an Olympian. And when they tell you you can be all you can be, that's horseshit. Because they don't want you to be disappointed. They love you. They don't want to see disappointment in your eyes. And in my case, education wasn't even thought about. What was thought about, and I've said it before, to keep me alive till I reached the age of reason. And my dad, if he was sitting here, he'd say, we're not sure, I wasn't sure it was ever going to happen because I was doing crazy shit for a long time. And that's why when I hear people in their podcasts that are doing ostensibly outrageous shit, and like I told Dave Asprey, I was doing this shit 40 fucking years ago. And I said, and now we call it biohacking or biofuck or whatever they call it. I was running 100 miles and pissing blood. And back in my day, in the middle 70s, you're not a man until you run 100 fucking miles and piss blood. Because you piss blood because your body inside starts breaking down and you urinate straight blood. And I did that in 72, 3, 4, 5. And now there's a cult running around saying how tough it is.
Let me add one more thing about the swearing. Tony Robbins had his movie come out recently, I'm Not Your Guru. And a lot of people were surprised that Tony swears a lot.
Yeah.
Like a sailor.
Correct.
And it was funny because you've been swearing publicly for a long time.
Correct.
It's the first time we've seen behind the scenes. And he does it to snap people out of their realities, right? Just to
yeah, well, I mean, but it's also how he talks.
Right.
You know, personally, you know, that's how he talks. Because he knows it's effective. But I mean, there's a guy that's got a lot of emotion. I mean, you know, he's touched many more people than I have. He and I don't do the same thing. But I mean,
what do you see when you see that movie? You know, he does. People have.
I didn't see. I'm Not Your Guru. I didn't see.
Okay, but he's touched more people. But he's got a different style.
Yes, he does. He's got his style. Is I get your head screwed on straight, and then you can go out and do whatever you want to do in life. Okay, mine is the opposite. I get you to go out and do something in life, and that gets your head screwed on straight because you've already got a result to be able to refer back.
You breed self-esteem through success.
Correct, correct. And what the kids have trouble with is that they go back to default too soon. Default is the way you were raised, etc. But I plant a success in there, so now your new default is a success. Your old default is how you were before. So I found that, countless times, that when I show you how to do something successful, something that you've gone out, okay, I want to do this, I want this, and these are the steps to get there. Then you get there, and now your new default is, well, shit, I'll just follow the steps again. And it's worked, countless times.
Let's talk about that success. Okay. That success in the QLA model, everybody in this castle ultimately wants wealth, from what I understand. Mm-hmm. What does wealth mean to you, and what do you think it means to them?
Well, to me, wealth is that you have more choices in life. I tell the kids and either the opening ceremony here before we go to dinner the first night, and at the opening of the first seminar class at 8 o'clock in the morning, that I name 6, 7 other people, luminaries that they're current. It used to be Ted Turner in the old days, and now it's Elon Musk et al. The biggest difference between them and you is they have infinitely more choices. Why do they have infinitely more choices? Because they've created what's ostensibly considered wealth. Some have done good with it, some have done bad with it. Most people have done good with it. But wealth to the kids when they come is something completely different. They don't equate it to having more choices. They want the choices, and they march around embassies, global warming, free the people, and whatever, okay? But that doesn't accomplish anything other than give news feed to CNN, etc. They equate wealth normally with buying a car, buying a house. They don't equate it to having infinitely more choices in life. And the more wealth you create, the more choices you have. And that's the biggest difference. Bill Gates lives in a 55,000 square foot house on the ocean inlet, wherever it is, up in Washington someplace. Because he has more choices. He has more choices because he created Microsoft, and he, vis-a-vis setting goals, he says, I wish that I had said, instead of, I want to put a computer in every house in America, I should have said, I want to put a computer in every home in the world.
His expectations were too low.
Correct.
Should have had you around.
Well, my expectations were too low. I said I wanted to create a $2 billion company. I created roughly a $500 million company. But I thought at the time, wrongfully, 20 billion was Exxon at the time. And I go, fuck, from $800 in a fax machine, now that's a bridge too far. Now I tell the kids just the opposite, and I use myself as an example.
Go bigger.
Yeah, bigger is better.
And just back to wealth, when the kids come in here, they see it as, when I get the money, I can buy Guthrie Castle. When I get the money, I can buy one of the cars out in front. But you're saying later they might understand that what happens when they get the money is they really have more choices.
Yeah, and it really transcends the car or the house they live in. Because a lot of the kids really want to do something for the world. It's how the kids have been raised the last 20, 30 years, okay? I wasn't one of those kids, okay? But they really do. So how are you going to for example, how are you going to save the fucking rainforest? How? It takes money. I mean, not Zen, right? Okay? You can't pay your fucking MasterCard with Zen. When I said that at Oxford, the example, has anybody ever paid their MasterCard with Zen? And I look around the room, nobody's raising their hand. And then I yell back at Sally, who's in the back. Sally, do you see anybody's hand? And I said, when you figure that out, let me know. And so Zen isn't going to save one tree, okay? Money, somebody that practices that has made a bunch of money, can save a lot of trees. But they don't, vis-a-vis the people that I've actually touched with my methodology, not my spirituality that I'm blamed for, but my methodology, have gone on and done some pretty spectacular things with their money. And, and the Gates and the Buffetts of this world are doing that, but they made the money, created the wealth. Now, not just the wealth for them. Bill Gates has created wealth for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that have bought those shares. The same thing, and Warren Buffett has created wealth for, Berkshire Hathaway, I believe, is the best performing stock for the last 50 years, one stock. Because they have created wealth, and they've taken the wealth from the shares or the money that they've gathered from through the Berkshire Hathaway and through all those companies. I mean, Amazon's another great story.
So, does money make you happy? Because we all know some billionaires, some that we know, that don't seem so happy.
No. But I mean, happiness in the sense, in the dictionary sense, doesn't come from money, doesn't come from, it comes from within yourself. The happiest people that I know are the people that have the highest self-esteem, the people that feel good about themselves. I've had high self-esteem since I can remember, since I'm 7, 8, 9 years old. And most people don't have self-esteem. In fact, most people have what I call negative self-esteem. Negative self-esteem is people that are capable, unfortunately, that not only don't they have self-esteem, they can take your self-esteem away. And that when you get around negative energy people, I mean, guess what? Negative energy is there. Instead of saying, fuck off, get out of my life, or go walking away, that's not polite. It's not polite to tell people fuck off and walk away.
And that's one of the things you teach here, is to cut out all that negative energy.
Correct. Negative energy. And they get back to me and they say, it's unbelievable, we've had kids come here that their mother calls them, or they call their mother 15, 20 times a day. Now, what the fuck can you possibly... Now, not if your mom's dying of cancer, something, that's not how I'm talking about. A healthy woman calling her little baby, we've had adult people, when they get on the phone with their mother, baby talk to her. Guy's 38 years old. Now, something's not right there.
And you see everything, right? Because part of the reason, part of the requirement of coming in here is they answer a whole slew of questions.
Correct.
And I think you said something to me yesterday. You said the reason I'm so effective is because I know which buttons to push.
Yeah.
And everybody has buttents.
Correct.
And now
you can equate that to everybody has skeletons, but I mean it's the same thing.
Okay.
When I say what's the highest achieving thing you've ever done in your life, you list it. Okay. And then I ask you, why was it? Okay. And then what's the most high achieving thing your mother's done? And why? Father, and why? Brother, if you have siblings, and why? But we have 75% of the people that come through here, the highest achieving thing that their parents have ever done is having them as a kid.
75. Wow.
75.
Okay.
And the kid's a loser. So, Charlie Manson's mother thought he was an angel. Now, Sally would say, if she was standing here, my family, my 98-year-old aunt who just passed away, when we were there visiting several times with Sally, would just, I'm an angel, me. And there's only 3 or 4 people that call me an angel. My mother, my aunt, and now about 300 nuns that we support that pray for me every day. They think I'm an angel. But I'm not an angel. I mean, I'm a hard guy. I set hard standards. But more importantly than that, Brian, I keep you accountable to the fucking things. And I'm not interested. Unless you're dead or in a coma, you better get it done. I mean, dead or in a coma. And so the kids have choices. When they understand and they connect the dots, like that slide that resonated with you. It's got a bunch of dots, which is all the information, and then it's got dots all connected. And you can put the dots together and understand how the different parts relate to one another. When they get that, then it's easier for them to make the sacrifices to create the wealth, so then they can go change the world.
And in the meantime, you're ready to press those buttons when
Correct.
necessary. And you know the psychological profile of each person when they come in here.
Correct.
Including mine.
Correct.
And you press the right
If you
button.
want me, guys, I mean, send me an anonymous email and I'll send you all the stuff about Brian. I'm just kidding.
And you press them when necessary.
Correct.
Okay. And during seminar and afterwards.
Correct.
Okay. And that's how you get the most effective results.
Correct.
Whatever it takes.
And whatever it takes, and I don't really care if you like me at the end. I've got guys that have created billions that think I'm an asshole, or not think. No, I'm an asshole, but they respect me.
What makes you mad these days?
Mad?
Yeah.
Well, the world's fucked up. I mean, Brexit, for just a couple examples. Brexit, when I said if Brexit goes through, it's going to have to affect two things more than anything. Well, first, it's going to show that the British public is fed up with all the lying politicians, yada, yada. They said that this and that is going to happen with us being in the EU. It hasn't happened. And I said, one, it's going to affect currency. The pound's going to go down against the dollar. The dollar will be the safe haven, and the pound's down 20-25% since the day they announced. The second thing it's going to affect is the inflow of foreign money into the UK, which has dramatically driven property prices, especially in Mayfair, and that's exactly what's happened. In conjunction with that, the price of oil that's gone down from $120 a barrel in August of 2014 to currently 45 or 48, whatever it is also going to exacerbate the property market, because what's lifted up the property market has been the foreign money from Russia, Saudi Arabia, and right now, for example, Venezuela is in tatters. I mean, right now, a piece of toilet paper is literally worth more money than 1,000, whatever the denomination they have down there. But business is going to go forward. So what pisses me off, you take that example, then you take the Trump-Hillary Clinton deal, and as I've said, I've met 4 presidents, 5 secretaries of state, amongst a bunch of other people. American, and I don't agree with everything Trump says, but Donald is resonated with the people, because politicians in America, they didn't start cheating politics, but they certainly refined it. And I mean, the country's fucked up. And I mean, one of the things he announced yesterday is he's going to, if elected, he's going to have term limits. One-time congressman, one-time senator. Now that went over like a turd in a punch bowl. I mean, so the people, is Donald the right guy? Maybe not. But will he do some changes? Absolutely. And one thing I can guarantee, he doesn't care if he gets reelected again. So he's going to do the things that should be done. He's going to scrap Obamacare, amongst other things. And by the way, I will not confirm or deny that I've been offered Secretary of Defense. So that gets me mad. It gets me mad that you can see these things have happening. I've lived here since 81. I've owned here since 84. And I see the massive changes. When I came here, there was 10,000 millionaires in Britain. 10,000. Now, ostensibly, there's 1 million millionaires in Britain. And a large part of that has to do with Mrs. Thatcher, who was reviled towards the end of her life and thrown out on her old butt.
She opened up the Big Bang in the stock market.
Oh, yeah. She did some great things. And she was ahead of her time. I started to say, remind me about how people say the market shuts down because people all go away for the summer. And it's now become a self-fulfilling prophecy. But you look back to 1984, we went public on my birthday, August 10, 84. Everybody's supposed to be asleep, right? I thought better, if everybody's gone, then I've got less competition. I can sell the shit out of the shares and we'll take it public. Maggie Thatcher and her key advisors, in her infinite wisdom, decided her first major privatization was Jaguar. On August the 10th, my fucking birthday. So she thought the same thing as I thought, or her advisors thought the same thing as I thought. And so everybody's told me to pull. You can't compete with Jaguar. You're going to get killed, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, Jaguar's the one that's going to get killed. The next day, the headlines I read, the one that really roared, Great Western up 20%, Jaguar down 20%. Okay? But we both thought that it's a myth that everybody's gone. You can still approve shares when you're a fund manager at Prudential when you're in Marbella. Everything just doesn't shut down. But now it's become self-fulfilling that nobody does any deals during the summer anymore. They just all go to sleep. But I tell you, I'm positive. Trump does deals. Elon Musk does deals. Warren Buffett, they all do deals. It's just the little minions that don't because they believe, common consensus. Common consensus isn't consensus. It's based on common experience. And it's normally common experience from mom and pop that are leading their hand-to-mouth existence.
You've got no Castle seminar scheduled next year.
No. The next one is the first week in December.
Got a few people nervous out there. Dan Peña, what's he doing for the next few years? Is he going to keep teaching?
Well, backing up, originally I thought I was going to retire from doing seminars at 60, 65, and then I didn't plan on stopping at 70. But it's still fun. In fact, I gave my last seminar, I thought, 3 years ago. Klaus Kleinfeld came. It was a big celebration. And then at dinner, I turned to Klaus and says, this is still too much fun. I'm not going to quit. That was 3 years ago. I have none scheduled, but I will continue to do them while I'm healthy, although this last two seminars, hardcore and the regular seminar, if I had to plan again, because I just had major surgery on my knee, it was a ball buster for me to give the seminar, but I'm through it now, and and I'm having another surgery in December. So I'm not planning any seminars. I'm going to give myself a few weeks to recuperate, unlike I did this time. But I'm going to give more seminars. I just don't know when. I'm going to make sure that Sally and I still have time to do things and go on cruises and stuff like that. This year I will have given 6 seminars. That's about, I don't plan on giving any right now. I'm going to rest a while, but that's about the most I can give. Every other month, it's because I do a lot of preparation. You know, I practice. Even though I could give this fucking thing in my sleep, I still practice. And new stuff continues to come up. You know, new stuff. The kids are all hot for cybersecurity now. Every time WikiLeaks drops some more emails, and it came out, and if I heard them correctly this morning on CNN, if it is the Russians, whoever's doing it has been stealing the shit from email accounts since 2008, waiting for the right time to drop the shit. Well, every time that happens, cybersecurity shares go through the roof, and it's more opportunities. Right now, the cybersecurity industry is fragmented. Every time there's a terrorist thing, God forbid, and somebody gets killed or shot, gun stocks, bullet stocks, security shares, security companies go through the roof. And so there's still a lot of room for fragmentation. Healthcare is still being consolidated. So there's plenty for me to do. And right now, with your help from exposing me to the public a couple years ago, you know, I have no shortage of the kids. I have no plans ever, even if I give seminars till I'm 80, to do to the public like I used to, because I don't have the accountability I have here. And here, with a year of free mentorship, I can hold your feet to the fire. And when I put a room for 1,000 people, I can't do that.
And what's your metric for success? What do you want ultimately? Do you want more billions created? Do you want that number to go to 1 trillion someday?
Well, I'm already the most successful high-performance coach that ever walked the earth based on equity, value created. I already am that. But what mine is, I want to bring 1 million people across the goal line. And I can't, and some people say I've already done that because I haven't met everybody that uses QLA. When you only take 20, 24 people 6 times a year, you'll never get to those numbers. But I just opened up I just published my book in Russian, gave it away free to the Ruskies. The Russian website, I believe I mentioned yesterday, goes up November 1, and with free content. I did the same, similar with Romania about 5 years ago. And I hear the Ruskies going crazy because the Russian mentality is very QLA, harsh, no excuses, accountability. Or they send you off to the gulags or whatever those things are called. Now, I don't do that, but I can see that if I was in Russia, you go off to the camp if you don't do it. And so I'm told, and we had a Russian guy here, one of my successful mentees, that said that it resonates well, but it works all over. So I'm here as long as I'm healthy. I don't have any seminars planned, but I'm going to continue to do it as long as I'm healthy, and as long as it's still fun. It was a little less fun me having to take painkillers, hobbling around for the last 2 seminars, but that won't be the case the next time around. And I see people like yourself inducted you into the Hall of Fame for touching so many millions of lives, and that's fun. And seeing your success is fun for me. And several of the other guys, like Klaus, even though people may think Kleinfeld is at the end of his runway, he's not. I believe he's only just begun. There's so many other things he can do on the world stage. Then we got Mikey the Pizza Boy, and we got a lot of people who is a major motion picture. And there's a lot of people like that. And then there's a little guy, I've got a guy rolling up pizzerias in Baltimore, Maryland, who, he wants to be another Papa John's. And so there's all kinds of things. And I enjoy it still. And I'm still very, very good at it. So as long as those things are the same, and as long as I keep my health, I was telling somebody, we have not ever had anybody in my family have cancer. Nobody. On both sides, nobody, ever. We have never had anybody in our families die of a heart attack. Both sides, never. We have never had the bad kind of arthritis. The good kind of arthritis we have, and I currently have. And so some of the major things that people die from, in my family, either they missed us, and so I plan on living a long time. And Dave, if you live to be 180, Asprey, I'm going to live to be 300. There's no question about that. And I want exposure, like I told you, I was on a short snippet on the Joe Rogan show. I've never met him. Seems like a good guy. And so the more exposure I get, the better I can put forth QLA. But I mean, the London Real exposure was great. And I'm still working on my reality show. It's pivoted into a reality show for vets. But just for you guys that are out there that are vets, a lot of the vets, high profile, that flap their fucking lips about wanting to be active, don't return phone calls. I don't want their money, but all of a sudden they disappeared. The fog of war has overtaken them. Because I don't want to make any money on the vet reality show. I want to do it just because I'm a vet. And so there's certain things that are still important to me. That's one of which. So I plan on not quitting anytime soon. And plus I got to continue to beat you. I mean,
full-time job.
Yeah, it is. And because you've got so many people that depend on you. I mean, let's not argue why, if it's healthy, they depend on you. But the bottom line is they do depend on you. And I know that. And I'm glad I don't get mobbed walking down the goddamn street. But every once in a while, I'm in London, they come running up to me, and Sally thinks they're muggers or something, and they're reelers. Are you Dan Peña? Yes. And he said, oh, you're bigger in person. I don't know why they think I'm a midget or something.
Everyone always asks me how big you are.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, he's pretty big.
Yeah.
What am I doing on that wall? I mean, you know, a lot of people say Dan Peña is all about bucks. He's all about the billions. You know,
I'm not all about. That's the point. There's 5 people up there that got up there because they transformed lives in a big way. Okay, 5, and you're now the 6th out of the 40-some that are up there, and because you have transformed lives, you have. That's why you're up there. But in addition to that, I mean, even though I don't agree with everything you do, as you know, but I mean, you're not taking away from anybody's future. Even though I don't like all you're doing, it's adding to their future, okay? It's not adding as fast as I would want it to be, which is an understatement, but it is adding. So you're like a drug to the kids that doesn't really have any downside. It only has upside, but there's not enough drug in it. There's not enough opiate in it, in my judgment. But you're changing, just like we stayed up last night late, and we talked about how you're morphing, you're tweaking, etc. I would give them, as I told you last night, more heavier doses of accountability. That's the thing that will get you a following that they'll remember 1,000 years from now. But right now, I mean, you're doing a good job, but I know you could do better. So you're up there because the shortest span of time, almost 2 years to the day, you know, you've affected more people than anybody up there. Now, there's a couple of people up there that have affected more people. Governor of Florida, but he's been at it a long, long time. Klaus Kleinfeld, he's been at it a long, long time. But for a non-public official type, I mean, you've affected more people, Brian, and so you deserve the kudos for that. Now, is everybody that a reeler hitting the ground with all 12 cylinders? No. You know that.
Thank you for that caveat. I appreciate it.
Yeah. But I mean, you don't have any double murders that I'm aware of. But the truth is that double murderer came from London Real. So
thanks for putting that there.
I just but I treated him the same. And but I want to see the model more successful. And I want whatever the superfluous stuff on there is you to make it not superfluous. And but there's no reason why you can't affect as many people as a Tony Robbins has. I mean, there's no reason. You actually have, other than the big seminars that he gives, I mean, so he has 5,000. I'm not taking anything away from his deal. He's got 5,000 people that come to an event. I mean, you have, I don't know, you have tens of millions that have seen your stuff. Now, he has tens of millions, but he's been doing this 38 years. Okay? You've been doing it a very short period of time. So, I mean, I don't think you'll be here 38 years from now. But if you are, I mean, you will have touched, billions maybe of people. And I tell the kids that want to change the world, come up with something that touches 1 billion people, and you will change the world, and you'll create wealth to be able to change the world even more.
What do you think London Real is in 5 years, 10 years?
Well, I think you're going to get into movies. We both know you're a closet Spielberg. I mean, but remember, Spielberg got turned down from the film schools 3 times before he got in, as did Lucas. I think got turned down a couple times. It's almost like a requisite for fame and stardom to get turned down by the big film schools. But I mean, you like the broadcasting end of it probably more than you should.
We're making a movie now with you.
Yeah, I understand that. But I see more of that. I see it. In my judgment, you need to figure out how to monetize it better. A lot, but you cover the spectrum for people that are in the top 10% of their game from A to Z. I mean, you know, are all those people worthy of your time? I don't think so. But the reason you resonate with so many different kinds of people is because you have so many different kinds of interviews. I mean, you cover the whole spectrum just about. Now, you know, would you have interviewed bin Laden? Probably, if you could have got him in your studio without getting stabbed, you probably would have. But there's a lot of different people, and but as you narrow your focus, because focus, in my judgment, you should focus on the few, not just you, but the kids listening. Focus on the few, not the many. Some of those followers are going to fall off. You've already got people that don't like the way you've changed. You've got people that don't like
you.
Yeah, they've got people that don't like the way you dress now. They got people,
you.
Yeah, and some of these other things. But you can't please all the people. I mean, whereas my focus is very narrow. Because vis-a-vis the sacrifice, your focus is much wider, and therefore your market's much wider, and also therefore your potential to change lives is much wider. And you have. Are you going to keep the polar cap from melting away? No. And the kids that believe that are delusional. That is going to happen. But can you, you know, as you say, up your game, up your peer group. But then you've heard me say, true high-performance people don't have peer groups. They fly as eagles. Eagles, when a storm comes, fly above the clouds. The other birds find shelter. And as you develop more products, not too many, but a few products, and you'll be able to hone in, I believe, as we've discussed. You know, you want this, then this is the product area for you. And I believe that the truly high performance people are less demanding in that they will take accountability for themselves. And you walked me through a little bit of it last night, and some of the kids that I've gotten emails from walked me through it, how, you know, you keep them accountable. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? You know, you get somebody like me or fucking Musk or somebody like that early in their career, you won't have to kick us in the ass. I mean, we'll perform, and you know, and we'll give general credit to you. It's like Costa Grazzo's, Jim Newman, and Jerry Ormond never kicked me in the butt one time. They said, we think that this is the way it should go, and then will you do it? And I said, yeah. And then a year later, I come back with the goods, as they used to say. I don't know what they call them now, and that I had performed and I'd done, and I had exceeded their expectations. The challenge is you need people to exceed your expectations of them, because your expectations of them are already greater than their expectations of themselves. Otherwise, they wouldn't come to you. I mean, it's a given. And I mean, when my kids, much smaller market, much more narrow focus, when they exceed their expectations, they fucking go, fuck, you know. But none of them say it was easy. It's, again, that thing I described, we did in 72 hours, which is unheard of, from the idea to a signed document. I mean, and the people in the group are just awestruck. And the guy that did it, when I sat next to him on the webinar calls, I could hear his fucking heart, literally. I mean, it was like a little drum, boom, boom. I mean, I could literally feel the vibration. He was so fucking nervous. Now, everybody said that, now, I don't do weed. Everybody said Dan was sitting back like he had just smoked a joint. But I've done it a gazillion times. And I always expect success. The guy, even though I was sitting next to him, not holding his hand, but kind of walking him through, I mean, his little heart, I mean, I thought he was going to, I'm glad we had a medical doctor there, because I thought he was going to have a fucking heart attack. And then, of course, in the night, he's having a glass of wine, and everybody's in here, oh, fuck, we always knew you were going to do it. Yeah, well. And you need people that will exceed your expectations. You know, whatever your expectations on your various product, you know, when somebody comes back and has done 10 times, and then you know,
those are my Hall of Famers.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Correct, and they're out there. You know, I hear from some of them from time to time. You also got some smart asses that think they're beyond. And I email back, if you're beyond, then why in the fuck you haven't done anything yet? Or why haven't you even done the shit that Brian's given you? And then I never hear from him again. You know,
You mentioned Costa Gratsos.
Correct.
One of your 3 main mentors
Correct.
that you talk about. Have you become as good of a mentor that he was to you now?
I think in some ways I've exceeded that because Costa didn't believe in explaining. He would tell this to Brian, and he would step away. He'd never bring it up again. And I don't do a lot of explaining, but I have several hundred pages of content that the answers are there if you want to drill down. How do you get the fucking money? 55 minutes, best shit on the internet. You know, do you have to be an alpha male to be a high performance person in the 21st century? 42 minutes, I think it is. Nothing out like that. Costa would never drill down, but Costa didn't only, well, so he says, and I believe him, he always dealt with super smart people that they got it right away. And at that time, the Onassis shipping group, Mr. Onassis had just passed away. They were at the top of the game of the shipping business. Nobody could compete. And so he only dealt with super smart people. And he expected results and he expected success. The thing that I see today, and even though I expect success, not everybody is as successful as they can be. So in some ways, I believe that I know that I've exceeded Costa in some ways. And now that I'm getting older, I mean, he still had more deals that he's been involved in because he lived well into his 80s. But I mean, at 71, unless you're fucking an idiot, you know, you have to have learned from all these things. Like I told you, I told the lawyer on a conference call the other day, he mentioned something that has to do with healthcare. And I said, well, why don't you pretend I haven't done it 1,000 times and explain it to me? And then he kind of...
81 years old, 10 years from now, am I going to turn YouTube on and see you holding court in the same room with a slew of inductees about to get the QLA method? Probably,
because I don't feel 71. I just don't. Other than my knee recuperating. I just don't feel, I don't believe I certainly don't act 71. And so I would expect in 10 years from now, I'll be reasonably healthy, very healthy. I weigh the same as I did when I was 50. You know, I'm 6'1", 220, more or less. And that's exactly what 21 years ago. It's harder to keep muscle mass the older you get. I thought that was bullshit. I believe it because I'm living it. But I will continue to work out and stay healthy. And I firmly believe that probably within my lifetime, they're going to come up with some, you know, I hope it's you, Asprey, some gimmick that prolongs life. And it'll probably be very, very expensive in the beginning, but I can afford it, you know? So I'm not worried about that.
I had a guest on the show recently. His name's Kevin Kelly, and he said that you're only as old as the last time you changed your mind. And I was curious, what have you changed your mind about in the past year?
Oh, Christ, yes. Oh, a number of things. I changed my mind about, for example, what I used to think would be a waste of time for me to expose my stuff in Russia, okay? And then they asked me to speak in Kiev, which I didn't wind up going, but it rekindled the idea, fuck, there's a lot of people over there. There's a lot of deals. I was once successful in Russia in the 90s, right after the wall came down. And so, but if you would ask me a couple years ago, fuck, I'm not going to ever do that. Right now, another thing that considering that at one time, many years ago, I was going to drop an atomic bomb on Haiti, which is, you know, I'm past the statute of limitation on that. I'm now looking at doing deals in Haiti. I have a French-Canadian, Haitian.
I met him.
Oh, yeah. That's
Reeler.
Right. Yeah. That's right, a reeler. And he thanked you. He said, I'm here because of you. I'm also, right now, I never would have thought, even if they dropped the restrictions in Cuba, I'd ever do that. I've got 2 guys on the ground in Cuba as we speak, one of which has already met Castro. They're desperate. They don't have anything is an exaggeration, but they've got pretty close to nothing.
Okay. So quite a lot you've changed your mind.
Yeah, and I have. And even though I wouldn't have dropped the embargo in Cuba if I had been the president, you know, you need to take advantage of the opportunities you're given. And Cuba, Haiti, Russia, and there's other places. And when it was hot to be in China, I was in China as a guest of the Chinese government on Chinese TV, and which the London Reel of Hunan province. And not like you, but I didn't like having a minder. A minder, in other words, I'd say ba ba ba, and then the minder would say in Chinese what I could say, and I didn't like that. And then when I saw the transcript, it's about 40% or 50% of what I said, but there's opportunities all over the place.
And that's exciting for you.
Yeah, and that's still exciting for me. And I like doing things that people say you can't do, and making money at it. And not just for me, because there's a lot of stuff that I can do that the kids can't. I'm older, I'm way more experienced. My transaction experience is almost second to none. But if you use the steps, and you build a dream team, and you find a chairman, and all the things I tell you to do for free, you can do it too. And so I used to think that you know, the kids can never do what I did, but now they can do it quicker. And the stuff that they can complete in the time frames they can complete it now, because you can do due diligence on the internet so fucking fast. And before, in the times of the Verdiers and Bruce Whipple and myself, shoe leather, as Bruce Whipple would say. We wore out shoe leather, you know. And when I told the hardcore guys that I had been on a bus from LA to Chicago because I couldn't afford a plane fare, you know, and I've slept in bus stations and airline places, and there used to be a place called the Library in New York. It's been ripped down now, but they used to have Tuesday, Friday, Thursday and Friday, all-you-can-eat buffet. If you bought one drink, and one drink was like $1.25, and I mean the buffet was from here to the fireplace, and I mean food like you wouldn't believe. I used to eat as much as I could until I was going to burst. Then I'd stuff food in my pockets, in napkins, and I tried to get back to my room. I paid $49 a night for a room, and it didn't have a toilet in it. All it had was a sink. And when in the middle of the night, I'd get up and piss in the sink and hope I didn't have to do a number 2, which the bathroom was down the hall. But I'd get back to my room and hope that the food didn't soak through the napkins that I put in my pocket, because to dry clean a suit then was only about $4. But I mean, that's $4 to dry clean a suit that I didn't have to do something else. And I used to be on the subways in those days. Now they tell me they're clean now. That's hard for me to believe, but I'm not going to go on the subway again to test the market. So, but and one of the things that the kids have trouble relating to is that I didn't always live like this. You know, I wasn't born like this, whereas my kids were born like this. You know, my daughter, when she was little and she was going to these posh schools, I didn't choose to have a wealthy mother and father. That was not my choice.
Do you ever wish they had grown up like you had?
Well, yeah, I do.
Poor.
But I mean, I don't give them any money. The jobs that my son and daughter have after graduate school, they got on their own. I didn't make one fucking phone call, and I could have. I didn't make one call. And every time they went to a job interview or they got denied, I felt for them, but I didn't act like I felt for them. And so they're on their own and they're doing well. And when I die, and Sally and I are gone, they're not getting any of the money, not a dime. All our money's going to charity. And this place has been in an irrevocable trust since 1987. They get this when Sally and I are gone, and I hope to God they don't liquidate it. There's money in the trust, but is there enough money in the trust to last 100 years? No. Is there money there to last 20, 30 years? Yeah. So somebody's going to have to come up with some fucking money to support this thing 50 years from now if I was to die tonight. And the cost here is incredibly large on a monthly basis after tax, because something's always fucking breaking, always fucking breaking. And and Sally, my lovely wife, like these windows were redone for my birthday. New windows, new framing. There was nothing wrong with the old fucking framing, except they were about 130 years old. And so when on the outside you can see the cracks in the cementing, the window and the frame. I said, nobody can see it. No, we got to put new fucking windows in. And I said, okay, we put new windows in. And like this new carpet. The old carpet, there's nothing wrong with the old carpet. But women are good at that.
What are you grateful for, Dan Peña?
Well, I'm grateful for my wife now, Sally, who is extremely supportive. The joy of Sally is she's extremely supportive and she's fucking super smart.
Amen.
And guys, with the greatest respect, I mean, if you can, and she's good looking. Okay, when you can have those three things, I mean, like yourself, I mean, you're up. But I'm grateful that the aquarium didn't kill the guy, because I'd be, God knows, Allah. And I'm not a Muslim, and I'm not making fun of Muslims when I say Allah. I'm just Buddha, Allah, God, But I predicted Mother Teresa was going to be a saint 20 years ago. And now she's Saint Teresa. Just, I got the right track. But I'm grateful for that. I'm also grateful that when the buffalo ran over me, it didn't kill me, and a few other things, because I wouldn't be here. I'm grateful for when I was a high school kid, cutting class, when I jumped out of a car because inebriated. I jumped out of a car because we had just seen not Steve McQueen, but some movie where a guy jumped out of a car, and I said, if I got, of course I didn't understand the camera angle, stunts and all that. So I jumped out of a car going 45, 50 miles an hour to see how it did, what it did to my body. And going up Malibu Canyon in Los Angeles, and cars skidded. I wasn't worried about the cars hitting me. I was worried about my bones breaking. Of course, now I'm bionic. I'm the bionic man now. I've got all kinds of bionic parts. But I'm grateful that I've been successful super successful as a high performance coach. But other than my children's birth, probably the thing that I'm proudest is I've pulled some sorry cunts across the goal line that would have never, ever, ever in a million years gotten across the goal line.
And that's hard to do.
From your lips to the big man. From your lips to the big man. And it's all possible for you watching this. All my shit's free. I mean, and I'm not taking away from anything. But as I told Brian the other night, everybody's got the right to make a living. It's not to me to say you shouldn't buy this guy's shit because, but if you want to buy something, I'm the wrong guy. But if you want material that has actually worked, as opposed to into creating billions for regular people, then mine's the only game in town. And I question why, some of the other guys are able to continue to sell their products that don't work. But we will continue to refine. the 7-step QLA process, and it's process, systems, and procedures. There's no journey, and most people live life on a journey, and you're right there. But you don't have, it doesn't have to be a journey. You can have a distinctive endpoint and a process coupled with procedures and systems to get you there, only if you're willing to sacrifice many of the normal aspects of life. As Jack Welch said, reference balanced life, he says there's no balance, work-balanced life, there's work-balanced choices, and they have consequences. He said it much more eloquently than I. Arguably the best chief executive in the last 50, 70 years of any big organization. He's quite a gifted guy, and they tell me his online MBA program is very good. I mean, I don't know, but they tell me it's really good, and it's real life shit. And he's got guys like me coming in and teaching the courses, and that's priceless, that kind of stuff.
One piece of advice you can leave people with, and you know everyone's out there watching this probably as another piece of content to procrastinate to. And after this, they're going to listen to another ebook and listen to another podcast. But they know they want to snap out of that cycle. What's something that you can give them with a firm piece of advice that they can do?
Well, I mean, other than just fucking do it, I mean, is to find a mentor that is where you want to be, but he's there, he or she is there now. And visualize you being in his position, not, he may be 50, 60, 70, 80, not old, but the way you look today. And your first goal and affirmation is based on the way you look today, and by definition then, your subconscious will see you there now, the way you look now, and you'll get it done as quick as humanly possible. But find a mentor. I mean, the mentor system's been around a long, long time. You know, Gates and Buffett are probably the most famous mentee mentors alive today. But I mean, find a mentor, and you need to have, he needs to like something about you, and you need to like something about him that transcends the business orientation. For Costa Grazos and I, it was good food and at that time, cigars, good cigars, and vintage wine. I mean, and we used to have that in common. With Jim Newman, it was tennis. He was a great tennis player, and I used to be a pretty good tennis player. And then with Jerry Orman, it was golf. And because when you find the mentor, don't wear them down. Just everything's fucking business. Every time you call them, don't call them just because you've got a problem. Call them, hey, how you doing? How you doing? And you know, I'm going to be in New York, or I'm going to be in London. Can I buy you a drink? And so it's not always a headache, or as some of my kids say, don't always be a hemorrhoid to them, you know, because they could get tired of you. But my mentors, I had them all about 25 years, just about how many years they lived. But I was blessed to have those guys. And then I had 4 or 5 secondary mentors, like the Governor Hugh Carey, former governor of New York, and a few others that were really meaningful, had meaningful impact on me in my life. But you need somebody that you can look up to because they are where you want to be. And unfortunately for most of us guys, it's not our parents. You know, they loved you, but love doesn't get the job done 100%. Unless you're blessed by having somebody that's super high performance person, and they love you because they're your dad or your mom. But those cases are rare. They're rare. But yeah, get a mentor and cherish them. Cherish them. You know, and don't just ride them for business. And call them once in a while. You know, on their birthday, how you doing, Joe? You know, happy birthday. Oh, well, you didn't have to do that. Yada. Get them a good bottle of wine or something like that, and they'll appreciate it greatly.
Well, I hope you appreciate me, Dan Peña.
Well, I do. I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't. But I want more out of you, you know. And I don't have to blow smoke, but I mean, you are talented. You're not as smart as you think you are, but you're pretty fucking smart. And you've touched a lot of people. Now, you didn't ask me this question, but would I have spent the time to touch as many people as you have? No. I don't even have to think about it. No, okay? In that regard, we have different personalities. I don't, you know, you are spending your time, but you know as well as I do, not everybody fucking appreciates how much work you put in. They have no idea. I mean, I can only sense, but Michelangelo said, you know, a few hundred years ago, if people knew how hard I worked on this, they wouldn't think I was a master. Because we all work hard on it, and I work hard on it. And the other guys that have followings and that are considered special do work hard on it. I mean, it just doesn't come by accident. A lot of the kids think it just, you know, comes by accident. Just the seminar I just gave, the hardcore, even though it's only the second time, I spent about an hour and a half before practicing and studying for every hour that they put in for the 10 days before. Changing, just like as you prepare for interviews, and they don't understand that. And candidly, Brian, most of the kids that are your followers, not just yours, wouldn't put in the time. They wouldn't. And you really believe, as opposed to I'm on board, pull up the gangplank, in other words, leaving everybody on shore, you want to get as many sorry fuckers on the boat as possible. And that's good, that's admirable. That's not my personality, that's not how I think. But your legacy will be, depending on how long you want to do this, you know, are you going to be doing this 25 years from now? I doubt it. I think you will have pivoted into something else, more finite. Now I see, and you already have little U's, mini U's, and you know, someday you may hand off 5 or 6 batons, as they say, batons, and to spread the word. But you know, you've done a good job. That's why we inducted you. But that's just the beginning. I mean, people that go up there aren't going up there to retire. They're going up there because you still haven't hit your stride yet. You will, but you're a young guy. You're a young guy, and but doing this, what you do day to day, can make you old. You know, you look a lot older to me than you did 2.5 years ago. You do.
I am.
Yeah, you are. And well, so, but I mean, you're doing a good job. Keep it up, the good work.
Well, I said in this room 2 nights ago, you know, 2.5 years ago, I think it was February 2014 or Jan, you came to the studio. I watched that interview back this week just to kind of prepare for coming up here, and I don't really recognize that guy. You know, he looked different. He did act different. So, you know, to put it lightly, you have changed my life, Dan. And you know, I do remember saying to someone at the time, someone was talking, why Dan, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, quite frankly, I was like, you know, he was the only guy that was really taking an interest in what I was doing and taking an interest in me. You know, I mean, it really was a solo effort. I think you found out that later. It was, you know, really kind of the one-man band down there that London Real was.
It was a one-man band.
Yeah, I mean, very much so it was.
When you interviewed me here, you did all the cameras and, you know, and all the stuff, and now you have your team. And this is probably the light version of your team. I'm sure when you do stuff in the studio, you got multiples of this. But I remember you setting up all the cameras, and I said, why is there a camera up on the staircase? Remember?
Yes.
And what's it called?
GoPro.
I had never heard that before. I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
And and you're fine tuning it, and then
tinkering.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we got a good show. Yeah. I came up with a bag last time.
Yeah.
A bag of cameras. And so, yeah, I remember that, and then coming up here, and we've had this incredible relationship. So thank you. As I said,
you're welcome.
I love and hate you simultaneously, and I think that's by design. It's hard being a mentee to you. It's hard to be a high performance. It's hard being a mentee to you.
Correct.
and you push and you push. And for someone with my personality type, it's hard to be around that. But it's necessary, and I get it. And I'm sure I'll disagree with you in the future. But I think we're linked for a little while.
I hope so.
Mr. Peña.
Good. Good, I hope so.
So thanks for the past 2 years. It's an honor to be on the wall. Thanks for sitting down with us today.
Well, it's my pleasure.
I appreciate it. It's about the process and the journey. And so to more of these in the future.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, Dan, thank you.
Thank you.